just in case. Okay, we are recording, so just so you know, anything you say can be used in a meme against you. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do. We have an approach that we take, and we'll kind of walk through this, but we also are conversational and stop for questions. But I have found that we're usually talking with faculty who have varying levels of experience with developing a course. So sometimes it's helpful for a refresher, and sometimes it's just helpful to start at this point. Well, we're here because you all are part of developing a new online course for the spring of 2021. And you may or may not know what all goes into that, but let me give you our theological context first. You all are probably familiar with this verse. It's one of my favorites, and it's one of the most taken out of context verses, and I'm somewhat doing that now, but humor me. I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Christ Jesus. One of the realities is, and Bethany can speak to this recently, is our students, part of their doctoral journey is likely something that God has worked out in them, or part of their calling. So as a result, our course development and teaching process is, in a sense, joining them as God brings them to completion. So what we're doing is we're developing a new course online and teaching it, but it's not without a theological underpinning to why we're doing what we're doing. So one of the most important things that we do here at Hardin-Simmons is spiritual formation. So that's the context within this meeting and the course development. And the reason you're teaching this course is because we believe in completing this journey in cooperation with the Spirit as they progress towards their doctorate. Let me give you a little bit about our theoretical underpinning as we teach online. This is a theory called the community of inquiry, and it's based on connections. It's the teacher to student connection. Right now we have the Zoom eye contact because that's how a lot of us are interacting with our students. But it's done in many ways. We have the student to the content, well, there's a particular course that you're teaching. Nancy is teaching strategic planning. Dr. Roberts is teaching diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we have the student to the content. We have the student connecting to each other. Interestingly, I just read an article by Reed Gregg, I'm reading this, Williams and Garbrick on the student user experience. And one of the things that faith-based and non-faith-based universities students said in an online program is they desire to develop an affection with their fellow student and the community at their university. So that's important. Now, I added to the community of inquiry that the fourth one here, connecting the student to the creator. Now, one of the ways that you can begin your course, and this isn't as much in the course design part, but this is in the teaching part, but it's also in the planning part, is I let students know at the beginning of the class that I believe that my role as their teacher in the particular course is to help them carry on their good work towards completion. Then I ask them, how do they see God carrying out his plan in them? And that starts a spiritual conversation and say, how can I pray for you? How can I help you? And how does this course help you with that goal this semester? So that's one way to start one of the four important tenets. Now, corny Bible reference, it's gray, it's a small, it looks like a squirrel and a fuzzy tail, but this is Bible camp, so I'm guessing the answer should be Jesus. Well, this kind of falls in that line here, so forgive me. But community of inquiry has three prongs to it. When I add the student to creator, it kind of gives us this purple quadrant or cross, and the icon in here is Canvas, because that's the learning management system through which this is mediated, and this technology through the phone, through the iPad, through their computer is where all this transpires. So before we talk about the nuts and bolts, I think it's important for us to understand theologically where we're at and then theoretically how we approach our online classes. So whether you've taught, like Dr. K has done, many courses to many students here, or Dr. Edwards, a recent graduate of our program now, designing her first course and teaching here for us, it's important for us all to understand where we're at, whether it's new or a refresher. So what are we going to do today? What are some of the nuts and bolts? Well, first, we're going to talk about how this works. We're going to talk about what resources are you going to have, and then when does this start and when does it end? When does this whole development process starts? Because if you look outside, we notice this isn't spring of 21, this is fall of 20. So how long are you on the hook for this thing here? Well, we'll tell you about that here. First of all, we have the first iteration that you're going to have as a kickoff and meeting with David Christensen, pictured on the bottom of my icons and video here, or he's to the left or right of yours, but he will meet with you and go over this process. So now we're going to kind of pull back, and one of the things that you'll get at that first meeting, and you may get it ahead of time, is this fillable memorandum of understanding. It's an MOU. It's not a contract. It just talks about the terms of it, and you sign it, David signs it, and I sign it. It looks like a contract, but it's not really a contract. It's just an understanding. And you will have the option, all of you, to either accept a stipend, which means you'll get paid $2,500 also to develop the course, or not, which means you won't get anything, but you'll retain the rights to it. Now, let me talk about what that means. So here's what that doesn't mean, Dr. Roberts, right? It doesn't mean if you develop this course and we like this course, we can say, thank you, Dr. Roberts. This is all our material now. We'll take it from here. And it doesn't mean if you ever leave the university that you can't use any of that content. It just means that while you are here, we are going to teach this course, pay you to develop it, and let us kind of own the rights to the course. And then if you ever leave, then someone could kind of come in behind you and teach that course. But we always give the developer the first right of refusal when they develop a course for us, unless they're just really bad and don't want to do it anymore or something like that. But that's what this means. So you'll be getting an MOU, and we encourage you to look at it. And you'll bring that to your first meeting with David. And that PDF here that we showed you has all the materials that you need, including the MOU, linked right in there for you to look at, as well as an example course as well. All right, so that's your paperwork, okay? You've got your PDF and you have your MOU. Now, there is one more thing. If you haven't, according to our policy, been trained, well, there's some more homework here. And you'll need to be certified to teach online. Or if you've been certified from some other company like the Online Learning Consortium or something like that, maybe you're like, hey, I've got a badge or I've got some bling and I've done this program or something like that, send it to us and we'll take a look. But otherwise, you'll need to complete this 2-week course. Now, it's a 2-week course made for busy people like myself and David, who are also working full-time and have other things to do, meals to cook and weeds in the yard, right? And so it's meant to be done for full-time people. So if that describes you, let us know. And Bethy, I don't know, it might describe you. And if that's the case, we'll get that link to you. Now, you'll go through this development process, but I need to pause for 2 things. One, I'm going to take a pull on my espresso, and then I just want to catch my breath, and this will be an opportunity if you have a question about the process. But David, do you mind taking 30 seconds or a minute and just from your perspective, tell them what that process of working with you kind of looks like?
Sure. Yeah. So the process will be collaborative. I'll work with you early on the course design. I think about it in 2 different phases. There's the design phase and the development phase. The design phase is where we're putting together the the learning objectives and the course itself. What are the activities that we're going to do to reach those learning objectives? What are the resources that the students are going to consume to achieve the learning objectives? And then what's the course map, and how does it all fit together, and how does everything align together so that it everything is pointing towards the learning objectives? Um, and then we'll get into the development phase, in which we'll actually be building in Canvas, and uh, I can be heavily involved in that or not as heavily involved in that, depending on your needs. Um, and building in Canvas, we have a template that we're going to use um, that will help all of our students to have kind of they don't have to relearn how to navigate the classroom every time. They can focus on the content and on the learning and the achieving the objectives that you set for them. So that's, I guess, the 30-second capsule of the process that we'll go through.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, David. And aptly put. And then what we'll do is David and I will circle back with you somewhere after Thanksgiving-ish, before we break for the winter break, and we'll kind of get connected with Zoom and with you. We'll kind of open up the course and just kind of see where you're at, see how we can support you. And because after that, we want to go on Christmas break and have a Christmas break, and we want you to do that too. And we want to see what the heavy lifts are, what kind of support or resources you may need from us, and see what that timeline is for completion prior to the course starting back up then in about mid-January. So, well, in the development of a course, there's kind of two processes, right? There's the course content, and then there's the teaching activity. And then there's that merger in the middle. Well, course design is really important. And let me explain why. Here is an email that I received. Now, full disclosure, I receive other emails on the other side of the fence about doing a good job. So this just happens to be one of the ones that I thought was impactful for me, because a student said that they wanted to affirm the efforts to put forth creating an engaging online class, and beyond the content, the opportunity to learn more about the structure and format. And I thought that was very interesting in lieu of the user experience research that is out there that says it's really important for students to have a consistent environment and one that engages them with their other students. So, okay, I use that funny word UX, or user experience. Let me explain what that is. Down on the bottom here, you see some buckets, right? Now, we all know when we're teaching or we're a student, we have a certain amount of buckets in our life. Now, maybe I'm teaching like I am right now, my red ethic, the ethics course, that would be my red bucket. Well, so there's a student taking that course, but they also have the yellow bucket, which is getting meals ready, the orange bucket, which may be binging on Netflix. They have the green bucket, which is, the gardening, and maybe the blue bucket, which is reading their books and, doing yard work or having fun with friends and things like that. So we realize that students have a prescribed period of time and a prescribed period of energy they'll devote to our course. We don't want them devoting that to how to try to figure out how to get around our course and what we mean by exam or something like that. We want them to have a similar user experience everywhere. And that's something that the literature talks about. And matter of fact, when we were picking out this template here that, David will give you a template that you'll be able to follow. So you're not creating the wheel or wondering how do you lay this thing out, right? But we brought in faculty and students and we showed them the template and said, here is all these different examples of faculty have done it by themselves, people have done it this way, and we put it up there and we just said, do you like this or that? And they would say, well, this. Well, do you like this or that? This or that, that. So we kind of put everything together and we utilized Canvas's usability testing. And so we have a template that is not only user-centered, but you can see things like here, like they're going to come in here and get information about you, policies, resources, technology, but every module they're going to get an overview and a to-do list, and they're going to understand what the time is and what they need to do, how much points it is, and when is it due, so that they understand, if you will, how this thing works. Well, let me put it this way. When I was in, I don't know, a junior or senior in high school, and well, okay, I don't think I did that as a senior. I hope not. But maybe when I was in elementary school, I would get like coloring sheets, right? Because I'd always get my work done. It usually wasn't done well, but I'd do it early. I just guess I liked the coloring sheets. So I remember one time, and Mrs. Davis, okay, this was fourth grade, Mrs. Davis, and when I would color outside the lines, she would come by with her ruler and slap me on the wrist or the back of my hands. And it hurt like crazy. And she'd say, "It's a coloring sheet. The lines are there for a reason." Whack. So now, as I've gotten older and um, expanded my horizons a little bit, I realize there's a place to color outside the lines, right? And there's a place for a blank sheet. Teaching online and designing and developing your course is not it, right? So our course templates are somewhat like Mrs. Davis. Now, David doesn't have a ruler in his office that I know of. David, is this the time to share that if you do? Okay. So we're not going to slap you on the wrist, literally, but we think it's real important for you to follow those guidelines. And this is one place where coloring inside the lines really helps. Now, there's no amount of creativity and engagement and interaction you can't do with the students, but we just want to assure that those students know how to follow along and can devote their maximum time and effort to learning with you. Now, this is something new I'm going to be asking you to be doing this coming semester. Let me explain what this is. This is a Google site, and I call it a pre-syllabus. There's other words for it, but I send this out to my students about 3 weeks ahead of time. And what I have here is just a welcome video, lets me know, hey, this is who I am, this is what I sound like. Seeing my picture isn't always a positive thing for students, but it gets that awkwardness out of the way. And then I tell them my commitment to them, and then basically how this course works. And I also have what they can expect from me. Matter of fact, I'm going to bop out of here quick and show you it. And then we can bop back in. All right, let me get my ducks in order here. All right, can everybody see this now? Okay, and what this does is, and let me explain, I'm going to give you a template, and we'll be a little training video for you, and you'll be getting from Callie. But what this does is it's an introduction video, my commitment, how it works, my philosophy of teaching, and my pact with them, what they can expect from me and what I expect from them, and course goals, right? And doc students, I don't like to just say, oh, all doc students are like this, but one thing I know about doc students are very, very organized, and they usually want to start early. So I let them do that, because a lot of times they don't get the syllabus or the course open till a couple days before, now that we're online. But I want to let them know what they're going to be doing that first week, what they'll be reading, and what to expect. Like, I sent them a journal ahead of time with a DACA leadership journal, because I have them doing a journal exercise. So it lets them know and it puts them at ease, right? And I show them my tips for success and then important dates with the links there. And then if they have any questions, how to get those answered. Now this here, this is well researched on its effectiveness for students, but let me explain another reason why this is important. In an online program, and as we increasingly serve students of color, so students that have been minoritized, often do not have the water cooler experience that other students have. So things that we just naturally know not every student naturally knows, and not every online student naturally knows this either. I had a doctoral student, and it was in Nancy, it was in your class. He reached out. He reached out to Dr. K, said, "Hey, I bit off more than I could chew this semester." He's an administrator in a public school, has a new baby. Probably not the best semester to start your doctoral work. So he decided, but he had no idea what to do after that. And he wanted to like unenroll and re-enroll for the spring and things like that. And see, this kind of levels the playing field for students coming into the course, especially if they've never had an online course, right? How does this work? First semester, or and again, remember the buckets. I don't want a student trying to spend too much of their time in their red bucket in my course, figuring out how this is going to work in their first week. I want them to jump right in and have the readings done and know what I expect from them and know what the expectations are. So that being the case, my expectations for you will be to have one of these ready for class, okay, and sent out to your students at least 2 weeks ahead of time. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I'm going to try to read. I don't usually like to do this. I'm going to try to read your mind, Dr. Roberts. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, this looks like a lot of work. I don't even know what platform he's using. How in the world will I do this? Well, we're going to provide you with the template. As a matter of fact, I've had some other faculty ask me for this, and I'll give you mine and you can just cut and paste or do whatever you want. But what I want you to do is to level that playing field and get those students connected with you and know what your expectations are and what they'll be expected to see and do in that course. All right.
Okay, excuse me. I just want to ask a question. So
Please.
this is, I'm having, it's the print's not very big, so I'm
Oh, okay.
leaning in here.
Yep.
You're talking about a document like this that needs to be sent to the students a couple of weeks before the course starts?
Yeah, it's just actually a Google
Okay.
site. It's like envision a blog. It's just like a web page that's very easy to use, and we can even fill it in for you if you want us to. But it's just a place, and it doesn't have to be this long. It can be shorter, but it's just, there'll be persistent elements on this document we want, like a short video so they can see what you look like and hear your voice.
Okay.
What is your commitment to them in the upcoming course? How does it work? You know, how's it going to work
Okay.
with you? When are your office hours be and stuff like that? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And then this is just some information as we kind of start circling the runway to land here, and we'll move on with the rest of our day. But there is this overlap, right, between the teaching activity in the course and the content that you're creating. Well, I wanted to show you the results of this study because as you're thinking about the intersection of your course design and your teaching activity, I think it's important for you to know this. This study was done by Grand Canyon University, pretty high end there, usually bigger than most of our dissertation numbers there, right, with the 5,000. And they asked students what they felt helped their learning, and you can see what they put. Detailed feedback on discussion forums, feedback on assignments, and instructor participation in online discussions. Just out of curiosity, what do you think faculty identified from this list as what students felt was most important to their learning? Any thoughts? This is one of those risky. I know there's a right and a wrong answer here, and but I'd just be curious from your vantage point what you thought faculty felt was important.
I'm surprised that videos is dead last.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, me too, because I make cool videos and I really want them to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little upset they didn't like what I want them to like, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else stood out, Joanne?
I think what's interesting to me is the detailed feedback on assignments, because sometimes, well, first off, I always, if they didn't do well, I give them a lot of details.
Right.
And usually if they do fine, I don't do as much. But my observation is sometimes that doesn't change the way they do things. So That's really interesting
Yeah.
that they put that there because I'm not sure they always read my feedback.
Yes.
So I think that's interesting.
Well, and I think it's also a little idealistic in that this is what students think help their learning. Doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean it's what they adhere to in their learning.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
that again, this is
Okay.
their, because
Yeah.
yeah, I know. You wouldn't be the first, Dr. Roberts. We could both go to the group for students who don't listen to our feedback therapy
Yeah.
group on students who please adhere to APA format. Please adhere to APA format. And you're like in
Right.
week 11.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where's my phrase express to just cut and paste it in there? So, well, here's what faculty felt helped students learning, Bethany. They felt it was the videos. What I thought was interesting, that's where faculty and students were diametrically opposed there. But it's almost like the total opposite. Faculty, we're down here thinking, I've got to make these cool videos, guilty as charged, connect them to these resources, give them outlines, summaries, text-based lectures, and all this. And students are saying, no, what we really want is you, right? And here is kind of a pie chart that kind of breaks all this down. So about where good faculty spend their teaching time. And I think this is helpful. They spend their helpful time grading, grading and providing feedback, facilitating discussion, and emailing and texting. So I think the theme that comes out of there and where this comfort is, and I always say this, whether you're teaching online or face-to-face, students know if you're into your subject and into the class. And your interaction with them, don't look as email as not being part of teaching. Because I'll have a lot of students who email me a question because not every question they want to put in a discussion forum or in the course Q&A because they're not always sure that gets read. You know, sometimes they just, I want to hear it right from the professor. So they'll ask this question and you can have this nice exchange and you're thinking, oh, I don't got time to do all this email. I got to get back to my class. And you were just in class with that one student. So, well, what's next? Okay. Next, you're going to get an email about a Zoom from this guy, and you're going to look at this. And that's when you're going to kick off your development process with David. And we'll collect the memorandum of understanding if you have any training or anything else to do in between that. And then the three of us, David, myself, and you, the individual developer, will link back up on about the beginning of December-ish and to see where you're at in the development process and how we can support you. Any questions before we head out and head on with our day? Any question you have that we can answer, myself or David, about this process?
I don't have a question, but I will need that link to the online teaching certification.
Yeah,
if you
I'll
don't mind.
send it. I'll send it to you, Bethany, as soon as we hang up.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I'll leave you with one final admonition to encourage excellence. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pray for us and then we will be on our way. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for Nancy, Joanne, Bethany, and Travis and Mike, who are also going to be teaching in the spring. Thank you for David. We ask for fruitful interaction with our faculty this fall as we design and prepare our courses for the students. We ask for a blessing on our students. We ask for safety for our students. We ask for safety for our faculty and staff. It's in Son's name that we pray. Amen. Nancy, Joanne, Bethany, David, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. It's valued. And thank you for being part of our doctoral faculty.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bethany, look for that email right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
Bye.